Well, hello there, Retro PC Durham. Chris here. We've got another tower. This is a small form factor tower, though, or a small form factor desktop, because it can go like this too. This is a Dell Optiplex 780. It's a Core series machine, which is great in terms of power, because we're going to get something that's going to have a decent amount of performance in it, and a nice small little package. Now, I did a whole bunch of Lenovo ThinkCentre small form factor machines last year, I think it was, in 2020 and into 2021, that had varying levels of performance, but they were great little machines to work on. So fun to be able to get the Dell version of those machines sitting on the desk here that we've taken a look at. So yeah, pretty simple. On the front end, we've got our logo information from Dell. We've got a laptop style DVD RAM drive, some audio ports and some USB ports. And then when we flip around to the back, a pretty compact design here with our motherboard. We've got some old style ports on here, an eSATA port, serial parallel ports, a VGA output. We've got Ethernet, a bunch of USB ports, more audio ports, and then our power connector. Opening up the machine's pretty easy. You just pull this clip here, and that releases this side panel, and that comes off. So we can take the side door off, and that reveals our inside guts for the machine. I'm going to go to a top-down view, and we'll take a look at the components. Now, from our top-down view, we've got our integrated small form factor customized size power supply. We've got our modular bay here where we can remove our media tray, and there is a slot under here where you could add something additional. So maybe like you could have put like a floppy drive or something in here, or maybe like I'm not sure what you would fit into that space. But it reveals the rest of our connectors. We've got 4 DIMM slots here for memory. There's 2 2-gig sticks installed in here, so you could upgrade this to have more memory if you needed to. We'll slide that back into place, just snaps in. We've got our hard drive slot, which just clips on like this. It's got a little plastic retention clips, and looks like there's a fan built into the bottom of this as well for cooling the system down. And that reveals our slots here for our drives. So there's a SATA port right here to add another SATA device. I guess maybe you could put an SSD in the front underneath here, and that would plug in here. Although I don't think that there's any additional power connectors available, so you would need some kind of SATA power splitter as well. So let's snap that back into place. So that just kind of clips down. Underneath here, you've got your processor, and there's another fan assembly that's in here. And then on the side here, you can kind of see we've got a PCI slot, and then we've got a PCIe slot, and that is a by 16 slot. So a low profile GPU could be possible in a machine like this, which is something that you can consider doing if you're looking at picking up a cheap old business desktop machine that you want to use for some low-end gaming. These are, things like those ThinkCentre small form factors or these Dell Optiplex small form factors are not a terrible idea. You can sometimes find them on computer surplus websites for, $100, and it's got you might get one that's got a quad-core processor, or maybe it has a dual-core, but you can upgrade it by getting a cheap upgraded processor off AliExpress, wait a month or so for it to show up, upgrade the memory to 8 gig or maybe even 16 gig if the chipset supports it, and then you put in a low profile graphics card, right? Like a 1030 or a 1650, I think they make a 1650 Super that's a low profile. And as long as it runs off of the power of the PCI slot, generally speaking, these power supplies, even if they're lower power supplies, they have to be spec'd to be able to put power out to any component that's going to be installed in the system, right? That's something that Dell or HP or whoever, if they make a machine that they're selling to business purposes, this power supply has to be able to support a full load, which means it has to be able to support 2 cards installed in here that are drawing full power that the slot can provide. So in the case of the PCIe slot, that's 75 watts, plus the processor, plus your hard drive, plus everything that could be installed in the machine has to be able to draw full power off the power supply, or you need or they've sold you something that doesn't do what it says it's supposed to do on the specs, which from a business standpoint, you're not going to mess that up. Anyways, let's get this closed up set up with the rest of the accessories and take a look at the rest of the hardware specs. All right, we've got our little setup here with our Dell Optiplex 780. We've got an Acer X193W, and then a simple USB keyboard and mouse. This is an HP keyboard and a Dell USB mouse, so we're all set here, ready to go. I'm going to hit the power button, and the machine will get itself started up. Always something to keep in mind with these small form factor PCs as well is because they're so tight and they're packing in, generally speaking, a lot of still desktop components at the time frame that these machines were out. The fans that are in them are pretty powerful. A lot of small form factor PCs that you may look at today, like a brand new one, they use a lot of laptop components instead of desktop components. And that means that they're lower power and lower heat generating components, which allows them to have easier to use or smaller fans fitting in them as well. Anyways, let's get the camera moved around. We'll get the image adjusted on the screen here so it's actually fitting properly on the screen, and we'll take a look at the rest of the hardware specs with hardware info. All right, we now have the Windows and display options all adjusted the way they're supposed to be. Hardware info is up and running. We'll take a look at our specs here. We've got an Intel Core 2 Duo E8400 processor. So that's a dual core, up to 3 gigahertz. Processor usually runs at about 2 gigahertz though, in terms of its performance. And that's got the onboard graphics, so the Intel GMA 4500. We've got 4 gig of RAM installed in this machine, and it's DDR3 RAM, so pretty easy to upgrade that to get higher capacity memory if you needed to in the future. And then as far as hard drive goes, I just have a 160 gig SATA drive installed in this machine, along with that low profile or laptop style DVD RAM drive. So let's take a look at our YouTube test, and we'll be finished. Now, one of the other cool things about having these small form factor machines is they often have an integrated speaker. In the case of Windows 10, it does take a little bit of work. Windows will install a standard HD audio driver, which won't actually activate the speaker portion that's built into the motherboard and the speaker that's installed on the case. So you do have to go to the vendor website and download the driver that would work with it, usually a Windows 7 or maybe a Windows Vista driver, and install that onto the machine. It will work. Like, I've done it a bunch of times with ThinkCenters, and I did it with this Optiplex 780. If you install that vendor driver, it will activate not only the onboard sound, but it'll also activate that integrated speaker that plugs directly into the system board and allow you to have audio. So when we start this up, we are going to have audio coming through on the machine. It's quiet right now, but it is there. As far as graphics quality goes here, we're at 1080p, and this is a 1440 by 900 screen, and I've got no issues here. The frame drops are minimal, just the ones that would have come right near the beginning, and yeah, the rest of our stuff is working really good. So that's our look at this Dell Optiplex 780 setup. I think it turned out really well. You let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this. If you would, look at these types of small form factor machines as good low-end desktop gaming machines with a little bit of upgrades. I think that there's definitely some opportunity there for people looking for some good value for money in terms of performance. As always, I hope you are staying safe and healthy, and we'll catch you in the next one.